The Theft and the Fall. The sky over Market Zone 7 was always gray. Thick clouds never moved, and the air smelled of metal and heat. It was a place where traders shouted, machines buzzed, and no one had time for the weak. Zara stood at the edge of the market, her thin fingers shaking under her tattered cloak. Her body was cold, her stomach burned. But worst of all, her little son hadn't eaten in 2 days. She looked back down the alley where she had left him wrapped in a cloth, sleeping on a metal crate. He looked so small, too small. She pulled the cloak tighter, trying to hide her pale alien skin. Her kind weren't allowed here without a permit, and she didn't have one. She had nothing, except one goal: steal food, or her child would die. Zara's golden eyes scanned the crowd. Her heart pounded as she spotted a food stall. A human man in a leather apron was busy talking to another customer. On the counter sat packs of heat-sealed bread and fruit capsules. She moved quickly, her bare feet silent on the rough ground. Her hand reached out, grabbed one food pack, and tucked it under her cloak. "Hey!" the stall owner shouted. Zara turned and ran. People shouted, some pointed. One threw a metal can at her, but she didn't stop. Her legs were weak, her head dizzy, but she kept running. She needed to get back to her son. She had food now. He would eat. He would live. But her body was too weak. Her legs gave out just as she turned into a side alley. She crashed into a tall man coming from the opposite side. He caught her before she hit the ground. She trembled in his arms. The food pack rolled out from under her cloak. The man looked down at her. He was human, mid-30s with short black hair and a tired face. A few cuts marked his arms like he'd seen some kind of battle. His name was Eli. Zara tried to speak. Her lips moved, but no words came. Her throat was too dry. Her chest burned. "Then," she whispered, her voice so soft it could barely be heard, "Please, my child. He's hungry." Eli froze. All around them, people walked by. Some stared. Some laughed. A few even shouted, "Leave her! Alien trash!" But Eli didn't move. He bent down, picked up the food pack, and looked at the woman in his arms. She was light, too light, like bones wrapped in skin. Her face was covered in dust, but her eyes begged. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. Zara shook her head. "Not me. Help. Him." Eli understood. He gently lifted her in his arms and followed where she pointed with shaking hands down the alley. They reached a broken metal crate behind some trash bins. There, under a faded blue cloth, lay a small alien boy. His skin was cracked and dry. His lips were pale. He didn't move. Eli crouched down and opened the food pack. Zara's hands trembled as she tried to help, but she was too weak. The boy opened his eyes, barely. Eli placed a tiny bite in the child's mouth. Slowly the boy chewed. Another bite. Then water from a flask. Life returned, little by little. Zara's body slumped. She leaned her head against the wall, tears falling. Silently, Eli looked at her. "You could have been shot," he said. "You risked your life. For food?" She nodded. "They don't give aliens work. My mate is gone. No one helps. Not even the aid stations?" She shook her head again. "They said I was too dirty, too poor. No ID. They chased me out." Eli sat beside her, still feeding the child. His mind was racing. He had seen suffering and war. He had seen hunger, but never a mother like this, willing to die for one food pack. "What's your name?" he asked. "Zara." He looked at her again. Her hands were blistered. Her bones stuck out from under her skin. Her child's arms were like twigs. Eli took a deep breath. He had come to this colony to fix broken machines, but maybe today he was meant to fix something else. He stood. "Can you walk?" he asked Zara. She tried. Her legs shook, but she nodded. "Then come. I have food, water, a warm place." Zara's eyes widened. "Why? You don't know me." Eli offered his hand. "No child should go hungry," he said. "Not while I'm here." She looked at his hand, then at her son. And for the first time, in weeks, Zara had hope. Zara sat on the floor of Eli's tiny storage room, holding her son in her arms. The room smelled like old metal and engine grease, but to her it was a palace. Warm, quiet, and safe. Eli had placed a heat lamp in the corner and laid down 2 folded blankets. He didn't ask questions. He didn't judge. He had just handed her a meal bar and walked away to give her space. Her son, little Kyle, lay curled against her. His breathing was shallow, but at least he was breathing. His eyes blinked open, slow and tired, and he reached a trembling hand for the food Zara held. "Slowly," she whispered, breaking off a soft piece of the bar. "You haven't eaten in days." Kyle chewed slowly, his small jaw barely strong enough. Zara stroked his dry hair, her heart aching with every motion. For weeks, she had wandered with him, begging in alleys, hiding from patrols, avoiding humans, until today. A human had not only seen her but saved her. She still didn't understand why. Eli returned a few minutes later, carrying a small plastic container filled with warm broth. "It's not much, just leftover rations. But it's hot," he said. Zara looked up, surprised. "You already gave us food." He shrugged. "The kid needs more than 1 bar, he's half bones." She hesitated, then reached out with both hands. "Thank you." Eli sat down nearby, leaning his back against a wall of spare engine parts. His boots were dusty, and his shirt was torn at the sleeve. He looked like someone who had lived through hard days too. Zara fed Kale slowly, watching as color returned to his cheeks. She had feared this moment would never come. She had dreamed of it while shivering under bridges, while hiding from guards, while hearing Kale cry himself to sleep. And now, her son was eating in peace. But the joy was short-lived. Kale suddenly coughed, a harsh, dry sound that rattled his chest. Zara leaned forward quickly, patting his back, but her hands shook. "What is it?" Eli asked. Zara didn't want to answer. She lowered her head. "It's the sickness," she whispered. "He got it on the surface, from the dust. His lungs are too weak." Eli's eyes narrowed. "Is it dangerous?" "Not to you. Only to our kind. It comes from the mining zones. The humans have shots that protect them. We can't afford them." Eli stood up. "We need to take him to a clinic." "They won't treat us," Zara said quickly. "We've tried before. No ID, no credits. They send us away." "What about emergency care? Only for registered aliens?" "I'm not. I escaped a slave district. I have no name in their system." Eli paced for a moment, hands on his hips. He looked at Kale, whose little body now rested against Zara's chest, too tired to cry. "Then we'll find another way," he said. Zara blinked. "Why are you helping me?" "I tried to steal from your people." "You didn't try to steal," Eli said softly. "You tried to save your child, there's a difference." His words were simple, but they cut deep into Zara's chest. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever looked past her skin, her alien features, or her ragged clothes. No one had seen her as a mother, but Eli did. He walked over to a locked cabinet and pulled out a small crate. Inside were a few sealed vials and medical tools. "I don't have much," he said, setting the crate on the floor, "but I worked field med during the Earth Colony War. Maybe I can help." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "Please, anything." Eli checked Kale's pulse, looked into his eyes, and cleaned his cracked lips. He gave him a small dose of rehydration, fluid, then gently applied a healing patch to his chest. It wouldn't cure the sickness, but it would ease the pain. Kyle relaxed, falling into a real sleep for the first time in days. Zara clutched his hand, her own fingers still trembling. Eli didn't say anything. He just cleaned up his tools and returned to the far corner. After a while, Zara spoke again. "I thought humans were cruel," she said quietly. "That they didn't care about us. Some don't, Eli admitted. But some do. She turned to look at him. Why are you different? He didn't answer at first, then he looked her in the eye. Because once I was starving too, he said. And someone gave me bread. That's all it takes to change a life. Zara felt something inside her break. The fear, the pain, the shame, it all melted for one moment, and in its place a fragile hope began to grow. The next morning the sun didn't rise, because on this mining colony it never did. The sky always stayed dull and dim. But inside Eli's small room, something had changed. Cale was still asleep, wrapped safely in Eli's extra blanket, and Zara was awake, sitting near him, watching every breath her son took. She didn't sleep that night, she couldn't. Her mind was filled with questions and guilt. Eli brought warm water and sat across from her, careful not to wake the boy. He looks better, Eli said softly. Zara nodded. The patch helped. There was a pause. Eli looked at her carefully. You said you escaped a slave district. You want to tell me what really happened? Zara looked away. Her fingers clutched the edge of the blanket like it was her last shield. She had kept her story hidden for so long. But now, this human had fed her, protected her, and healed her child. He deserved to know. So she spoke, her voice soft, each word heavy. I was born on a green world called Velmara. My people lived in the trees. We never needed machines. We grew everything from the soil. We sang to the sky and believed in kindness. But then, the humans came. Eli frowned, but stayed silent. Not you, Zara added. Others. Soldiers, businessmen. They said they came to trade, but they brought war. They wanted our crystal mines. We tried to resist, but we had no weapons. They burned our villages. Her voice cracked, but she kept speaking. They took the strong ones and branded them. I was 16 when they caught me. I worked in the factories for 5 years. We were not allowed to speak, not allowed to rest. If we cried, they punished us. Eli's fists clenched at his sides. He had heard stories of the old wars, but nothing this cruel. One day a man helped me escape. He was an alien like me. He became my mate. We ran, we hid. We made it to another colony. We lived quietly, until he died in a mining accident. Cale was only a baby. She paused, blinking back tears. I went to the shelters, but when they saw I had no ID, they called the patrols. Said I was a runaway. I ran again, with my baby in my arms. I've been running ever since. Eli exhaled, slowly. You've never stolen anything before? Never, Zara said firmly. I begged. I worked where I could. But when Cale got sick, I had no choice. I tried everything. No one helped. No one even looked at me. Until now. Eli looked at her differently now. Not as a thief, not even as just a mother, but as a survivor. She was strong. I'm sorry, he said. Zara blinked. Why are you sorry? You didn't do those things. I didn't stop them either, Eli said. I was a mechanic on Earth warships. I fixed things. I never asked what they were used for. But now, I wonder. There was a long silence between them, filled with memories and regrets. Then Zara asked, Why are you here, Eli? You don't seem like the others. He smiled faintly. I lost my family during the last civil war. I came here to escape the pain. I thought if I kept fixing machines and staying quiet, the past wouldn't catch me. Zara nodded. I thought the same. But pain follows. He looked at her again, and for a brief moment, they both saw something familiar in each other. Two people lost in a galaxy that had broken them, trying to hold on to something small and good. Zara reached for Cale's hand. He's all I have. If he dies, I have no reason to keep running. Eli stood up and walked to the storage shelf. He took out a small black bag and placed it in front of her. What's this? She asked. Credits. Not much, but enough for medicine and a new ID, if you know where to look. Zara stared at the bag, shocked. I can't take this. You can, he said, and you will. This is everything you own. Eli shrugged. Then I'll start over. You already did. Zara covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. She had never met anyone like him. A man who would give everything, not for love, not for reward, but just because it was right. You don't even know me, she whispered. I know enough, Eli replied. You're a mother. That's all I need to know. And for the first time since the invasion of her homeworld, Zara felt something warm rise inside her. Not fear, not guilt, but trust. And that trust would change everything. That night, the wind outside Eli's shelter blew hard, carrying sand and cold across the colony's broken streets. Inside, Zara sat beside her sleeping son while Eli fixed a broken circuit board on the table. The tiny sparks lit the shadows, and the smell of solder filled the room. Zara watched in silence, thinking deeply. The credits Eli gave her sat untouched, beside her. She hadn't moved them. It felt wrong, like touching someone's soul without permission. That money was everything he had, and yet he had offered it like it meant nothing. Why do you do this? She finally asked. You risked your home, your food, even your future for us. Eli didn't look up. Because someone has to. But you don't even know if Cale will survive. I believe he will. You haven't given up on him, so I won't either. Zara's eyes lowered. What if I told you there was another way to get medicine, faster than buying it, but dangerous? Eli's hand paused mid-solder. He slowly set the tool down. What kind of way? Zara hesitated. Then she stood, walked to a small bundle hidden in the corner, and unwrapped something from within. It was a tiny shard of glowing blue crystal, smooth, sharp, and pulsing softly. Eli's eyes widened. That's Velmarite, he said. Illegal crystal, highly radioactive. Where did you get that? I took it before I escaped, Zara said, softly. From the mines where they kept us, just one shard hidden under my skin. It's worth thousands. Eli stared at her. And you kept it all this time? For Cale. I never trusted anyone to trade it. But now you're telling me. She nodded. Because I don't have time anymore. He's getting worse. Eli crossed his arms. Who do you plan to sell it to? There's a broker, a man named Sarn. He deals in black market medicine, but he's dangerous. He wants something in return. Eli didn't like the sound of that. What does he want? Zara hesitated. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, Me. Eli felt his chest tighten. He always wanted a Velmaran slave. I escaped before he could get me. Now he says, if I come back willingly and bring the shard, he'll give Cale the cure. Eli's voice grew hard. That's not a trade, that's extortion. It's all I have, she whispered. My life for his. Eli stood, pacing the room. His mind raced. We can't trust someone like that. He could take the shard and still let Cale die. I know. Then we find another way. There is no other way, Zara snapped suddenly. Then just as fast she covered her mouth. I'm sorry, she said. I'm tired. I'm scared. I don't want to lose my son. Eli walked over and crouched in front of her. You won't. You won't give yourself to that monster. We'll find a way to get Kyle help and keep you safe. Zara looked down. You don't even know Sarn. He has men. He watches the clinics. He controls the med routes. Eli's eyes narrowed. Then maybe it's time someone stopped him. You're one man. I've been one man before, and I survived worse. There was a long pause. Zara's eyes filled with tears. You'd fight him for me? Eli nodded. For you. For Cale. No one should have to sell their soul to save their child. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. Zara jumped. Eli grabbed a wrench from the table and moved quietly. Another knock. Then a voice, slimy and slow. Zara. I know you're in there. The human shelter, huh? That's cute. Zara's blood turned cold. Sarn. Open up, the voice continued. I just want to talk. One little trade, remember? Eli whispered. Don't move. He crept to the peephole and looked through. Two large men in gray armor stood behind. Sarn, who wore a silver coat and a smug grin. He held up a small vial. This is the cure, Sarn said, tapping the glass. One drop. Saves the boy. One deal. You for it. Zara's hands shook. Kyle whimpered in his sleep. Eli's jaw tightened. He stepped back, grabbed a stun rod from his shelf, and whispered to Zara, We don't open the door. She nodded slowly. Then what? We prepare. Outside, Sarn leaned closer. Tick-tock, Zara. Your child doesn't have much time. If you walk away, don't expect me to offer twice. Then the footsteps faded. Zara fell to her knees. I can't let Kale die. Eli knelt beside her, his voice steady. We'll protect him. Together. Zara looked into his eyes and saw something there. Something no slaver, no guard, no beggar had ever shown her before. Not pity, not fear, but fire, and with that fire came a plan. Eli didn't sleep that night. While Zara lay on the floor beside Kale, holding her child close, Eli sat near the door with a tool in one hand and a plan growing in his mind. The memory of Sarn's smug face haunted him. The way he waved the medicine like a prize. The way he spoke Zara's name like she was property. He knew one thing for sure now. Zara would never walk into Sarn's trap, not while Eli was alive. As dawn crept into the sky, Eli packed a small satchel with his identification, chip, his land rights documents, and a small pouch of tech parts. Everything that made him a legal citizen of the colony. Everything that gave him value. Everything he owned. Zara stirred. Where are you going? Eli didn't look at her. To the Black District. I'm going to trade. Her eyes widened. You can't. You'll be arrested just for going there. I won't be if I go through the scrapyard path. Sarn's men use it to smuggle. I'll pretend I want to sell equipment. She stood, panicked. You can't face him alone. You don't know what he'll do. I do, Eli said quietly. And that's why I'll do the talking. He won't expect a human to come alone. He'll think I'm greedy. He'll listen. Zara reached out and grabbed his arm. Don't give him the crystal. It's all we have left if this fails. I'm not trading the crystal, Eli said. I'm trading something he values more. She stared at him, confused. Eli looked into her eyes and said softly, My freedom. Zara gasped. No. He nodded. If I give him my ID, he can forge it, sell it, use my tech license. That's worth more than you or the crystal in the black markets. He gets what he wants. You and Kale get the cure. And you stay safe. But you'll lose everything. I'll still have my hands, my brain. I can fix things, start over. Zara stepped back, shaking her head. I won't let you destroy your life for us. Eli smiled gently. You already did that for your son. Now it's my turn. She opened her mouth to argue, but the words didn't come. Her heart screamed no, but something deep inside her believed in him, trusted him. She hugged him tightly, holding on to him like he was her last anchor in a storm. Just come back. I will, he whispered. With the cure, Eli slipped through the scrapyard's twisting metal paths, crawling past rusted ships and broken bots. Sarn's hideout sat beneath a ruined dome, lit by dim red lights, guarded by two armored men. He stepped out of the shadows and raised both hands. I'm here to make a deal. Sarn looked up from his seat inside. Ah, the human. Zara's new pet. What brings you here? Eli stepped forward calmly. You said you wanted value, something better than a runaway slave and a crystal? I've got it. Sarn leaned in, amused. Do tell. Eli placed his satchel on the table. He pulled out his identity chip, laid it flat. Then the land rights. Then his trade license. Sarn's eyes lit up. You're giving me your entire life? He said, almost laughing. In exchange for the boy's cure? Eli said firmly. No, tricks. You give me the vial. I give you my legal self. You can become Eli Ward if you want. Or sell it to someone else. I don't care. Sarn picked up the chip and examined it. His smirk faded. You're serious? Yes. Sarn narrowed his eyes. You could just take the vial and run. Eli smiled coldly. You have guards. I'd be dead before the second step. Sarn tossed the chip in his hand. Why do you care about that alien girl? She has more courage than you ever will, Eli said quietly. And her son deserves to live. Sarn studied him for a long moment, then finally held up the vial. Deal. He dropped it into Eli's hand. Eli turned to walk away, but just before the door, Sarn called out, You gave everything. She better be worth it. Eli didn't answer. He walked away without looking back. When he returned to the shelter, Zara saw the vial in his hand and ran to him. You got it, she cried. He nodded, smiling, tired. She looked past him. Where's your ID? Your badge? He didn't speak. Her face changed. You did it, didn't you? You gave it all. Eli nodded once. It was the only way. Zara fell to her knees. Her tears fell silently, but her hands held the vial tightly. She gave the first dose to Kyle, who blinked weakly. But this time, a spark returned to his eyes. Eli leaned against the wall, exhausted. You didn't have to, Zara said softly. I know, he replied, but I wanted to. She stood, walked to him, and placed a gentle hand on his cheek. You're not just a man, Eli. You're the miracle I prayed for. He smiled faintly, but his eyes closed. And in that small, dusty shelter, something stronger than fear grew. Zara had always known fear. She had lived with it since her youth. Fear of patrols, fear of hunger, fear of being hunted. But now, something new burned inside her. Not fear, not helplessness, but rage. Quiet and fierce. 3. Days had passed since Eli gave up his life for hers and Kale's. Since then, Kale's health had improved. His eyes were brighter, his cough weaker. He could sit up now, even whisper words again. But Eli, he was not the same. Without his identity chip, Eli was nothing in the eyes of the colony. No ID meant no work, no rights, no protection. Already, he had been stopped twice by security drones. If Zara hadn't been beside him, holding Kale and playing the family card, they might have dragged him to the detainment cells. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came when Sarn returned. It was late evening. Zara had gone out with Kale to get fresh water from the purifier station. Eli stayed behind to repair a broken heater unit, something to trade for food. When Zara returned, the shelter door was wide open. Her heart dropped. Kyle clutched her side. She rushed inside. The small lamp was overturned. Tools scattered. And Eli, he was on the ground, a bruise swelling across his face. One of Sarn's men stood behind him, holding a stun baton, and there was Sarn sitting comfortably on Eli's stool, his silver coat shining in the dim light. Well, well, he said with a smile. Look who finally decided to come home. Zara's body moved before her mind could even react. She stepped in front of Eli, placing herself between him and the thugs. Leave him alone, she said, her voice low but steady. Sarn raised an eyebrow. Now that's new. The quiet alien girl finds her voice, how touching. Eli groaned behind her. Zara, don't. But she didn't move. You made a deal, she growled. You got what you wanted, the shard, his identity, his future. Now get out. Sarn stood slowly, amused. But see, that's where things get tricky. The ID didn't work the way I expected. There's a block on it, some kind of moral code. This fool added a failsafe. Useless to me now. Zara glanced, back at Eli. He was bleeding but conscious, and despite the pain he gave her a small nod. He had tricked Sarn. You filthy! Sarn spat and slapped Eli hard across the face. Zara snapped. She handed Kale the water canister and pushed him behind, a broken wall divider. Don't come out. Then she stepped forward and grabbed the metal rod near the heater. Sarn's men laughed. "What are you going to do with that?" She didn't answer. Her grip tightened. "Touch him again," Zara said, her voice sharp. "And I will show you what a mother can do." Sarn smirked. "You're just a slave girl." Not anymore. She swung the rod, fast and wild. It cracked across one thug's knee. He screamed, collapsing. The other rushed forward, but Zara ducked and shoved the heater into his chest, burning him. Eli forced himself up, grabbing the stun baton off the floor. In seconds, it was chaos. Sarn shouted, "Kill them both!" But Zara wasn't backing down. Her body moved with purpose, like all the fear she'd ever known had been pushed aside. She fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. Eli struck the last guard with the stun baton. The man dropped instantly, twitching. Sarn backed into the wall, pale now. "You're making a big mistake," he warned. Zara stepped forward, blood on her sleeve, fire in her eyes. "No, the mistake was thinking I was weak." Eli raised the baton toward Sarn. "Get out, now." Sarn scowled, but he knew defeat. He spat on the ground and stormed out, dragging his men behind him. Silence returned to the shelter. Zara dropped the rod and ran to Cale, hugging him tightly. He was safe. Then she turned to Eli, helped him sit, and wiped the blood from his chin. "You shouldn't have fought," he whispered. "You shouldn't have given up your name," she replied. He chuckled, wincing. "We're both too stubborn." Zara looked at him with deep, quiet eyes. "No, we're both something more now." "What?" "Family." She touched her forehead gently to his. "You saved us. Now I will protect you. I don't care if you're human. I don't care if the whole colony hates me for it. You are ours." Eli smiled through the pain. "Then we protect each other." In that cold, broken shelter, the bond between a once-hunted alien mother and a nameless human man became something stronger than survival. It became love. Not the kind of love born in comfort, but the kind that forms in fire and never breaks. Days passed. The sky over the colony stayed gray, but inside Eli's little shelter, something was different. The air no longer felt cold, even though the heater barely worked. The silence no longer felt lonely, even though the walls were still cracked. For the first time in a long time, life was growing inside those walls. Not just survival, but something deeper. Zara now smiled when she woke up, her first smile in years. Every morning she checked on Cale, brushed his tiny braids, and kissed his forehead. His cheeks were no longer hollow. His eyes were bright, curious again. He laughed when Eli told stories and followed him around like a shadow, asking about tools and wires. He even called him Uncle Eli. But Zara had seen the way Eli looked at them, like they were more than just guests, like they belonged to each other now. And deep in her chest, something warm stirred whenever he smiled back. One afternoon, as Cale played with spare bolts on the floor, Zara sat across from Eli near the small cooking plate, stirring broth. "I've been thinking," Eli said, his voice gentle. "You shouldn't stay hidden forever. Cale's going to need real schooling. Safety, a future." Zara nodded slowly. "I know, but with no ID, we can't even walk into a market without risk. We still don't exist." Eli reached into a drawer and pulled out something, 2 shiny cards freshly printed. Zara stared. "What is this?" "New identities. Legal ones," Eli said. "I traded half my tools to a contact in the outer sectors. Took weeks to arrange." Zara picked up the first card. It read, "Zara Vel, citizen, status refugee protected." And beside it, a small photo of her, taken while she wasn't looking. The second card read, "Cale Vel, dependent." Her hands trembled. "You did this for us?" "For us," Eli corrected. "Because I don't want to keep hiding either." Zara's voice cracked. "I don't have anything to give you in return." "You already gave me something," he replied, smiling. "A reason to stay alive." That night they ate together like a real family. and for the first time Zara let her heart rest. She didn't flinch at shadows. She didn't worry about tomorrow. She just watched Eli and Kale laugh over burnt bread and felt whole. But the galaxy was always watching. 2 days later, a council drone landed outside their shelter. Zara froze. Eli stood protectively in front of them as 2 officers stepped out, both human. "Are you Eli Ward?" the lead officer asked. Eli nodded slowly. "You're being summoned to the local council for questioning. Come peacefully." Zara's heart dropped. "What did they find?" Eli looked at her and smiled calmly. "Don't worry." At the council hall, the room was silent as Eli stood before 3 human leaders and 2 alien representatives. Zara sat behind him, holding Kale's hand tightly. The lead counselor spoke. "We've reviewed several reports. One from a slaver, named Sarn, one from your former employer, and one anonymous file, showing your decision to give up your legal identity to save 2 undocumented aliens." Zara's head lowered. Her heart raced. "You broke the law," the counselor continued. "You traded government documents, protected fugitives, hid an unregistered minor." Eli remained still. "I did what was right." The room was quiet, for a long time. Then the alien representative, a gray-skinned elder woman with golden eyes, leaned forward. "You risked your entire life for a child who wasn't yours." "Why?" Eli answered, simple and sure. "Because he should have a future, and because his mother is braver than any soldier I ever knew." The alien woman smiled faintly. She looked at the others and said, "That is what peace should look like." The counselor cleared his throat. "After full review, the council grants full refugee status to Zara Vel and Kale Vel, with protection under the Human-Alien Coexistence Act. Mr. Ward, you will be reinstated as a citizen with your new household, if you accept them as your family." Zara's eyes widened. "Family?" Eli turned around slowly and walked toward her. He knelt before her and Kale. "You don't have to say yes," he said, voice soft. "But if you want, I'd be proud to be your partner, to help raise Kale, to be your home." Zara stared at him, tears falling freely now. She didn't wipe them. She didn't look away. She just nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "You already are." Kale hugged them both, wrapping his little arms around their shoulders, and the council chamber, usually cold and full of rules, fell into silence, a beautiful silence full of something no law could create. Family. Weeks later, Eli fixed his heater again. Kyle helped by handing him tools while Zara made tea on the stove. Their home wasn't fancy, but it was warm, safe. Zara stepped out into the sunless air, watching ships land in the distance. Other refugees were arriving now, drawn by whispers of a human who had opened his door and an alien mother who had stood tall. She turned to look at her boys inside. She had stolen food once to save her child, but in return she had found a future and love.